Okay, we are going to keep this video nice and short and sweet here. So this is page 98. It is the short response to King Alfred, the play that I read. So it says, compare and contrast Alfred's and Cudred's traits, actions, and interactions. Include 2 details from the drama in your answer. Now, all of these answers would be taken from the Venn diagram that we filled out. And it says a little hint here, one way to start a compare and contrast answer is to tell how the characters are similar. So well, that'll be our first detail. So remember, when we have these, we follow TADDW. Okay? So we're going to turn this question around and answer it. Now, you may be saying, Ms. Testa, there's no question here. There's no question mark. It's just telling me what to do. That's okay. We can still turn this around. So we will say, Alfred and Cudred are characters that are similar and different, because when you compare and contrast, you have the similarities and differences. Okay, when we just write it like contrasting them, we just want differences, but we want both. So Alfred and Cudred are characters that are similar and different. Now, it says to talk about their traits and actions and interactions. And it gave us the hint in saying how both of them are. So to start with the similarities. So we're going to say, for example, now you can use a starter sentence that works best for you, okay? For example, comma, the characters are both, because that indicates the similarities, are both, you could say Englishmen, because this is what we put in our Venn diagram. Now there's other answers. We could say they're polite, they are respectful of each other. I'm going to use stuff that we put directly in our Venn diagram so that it's easier for you guys to connect. Okay, the characters are both Englishmen and dislike who? Dislike the Danes. Okay. Now, what were some of the differences? Okay, we have the king versus just this peasant person. So there's lots of differences that we could use. We talked about how if we're referring to traits, Alfred is, humble about it. He's noble and thankful, and Cudred is generous and welcoming. So we could say, according to the text, okay, I'm going to use one of their actions or interactions. So that's not going to include the noble and thankful because that's too easy, okay? We can do much better than that. So we're going to say, according to the text, Alfred, and if you want to call him King Alfred, that's fine. Alfred, disguises himself. Disguises himself. Then tells who he is. Then tells who he is. Okay. Now you might be saying, Ms. Testa, I'm done because I gave 2 details. Yes, but did we fully answer the question? No, because when you're doing a difference, you have to include the other person. You can't just say how the one was different. So let's say how Cudred was different. Okay? So we'll say, For instance, okay, another good starter. For instance, Codred was not noble, but still gives Alfred a place to stay. Okay, so we turned it around, we answered, we gave our details. So what's left? Wrap-up sentence. So we have Alfred and Codred are characters that are similar and different. For example, the characters are both Englishmen and dislike the Danes. According to the text, Alfred disguises himself, then tells who he is. For instance, Codred was not noble, but still gives Alfred a place to stay. How do we wrap it up? Well, simple. We usually use what we did in our first sentence. So we can say, this shows or proves, shows how the characters of Alfred and, oops, I put AB, so this test says shouldn't be using pen. This is why you shouldn't be using pen either, in case you make a mistake. I don't like those little scribbles, but I made a mistake. Okay, so Alfred and Codred are similar and different. Okay, so we turned our question around, even though it wasn't a real question. Okay, it was telling us what to do, but you can still turn it around. We answered it by giving our two details, and then we wrapped it up. Okay, now little guy says don't forget to check your writing. Means we should read it over, make sure we didn't forget anything or make any more mistakes. So Alfred and Codred are characters that are similar and different. For example, the characters are both Englishmen and dislike the Danes. According to the text, Alfred disguises himself, then tells who he is. For instance, Codred was not noble, but still gives Alfred a place to stay. This shows how the characters of Alfred and Codred are similar and different. So, did we compare and contrast their characters? Yes. Did we use the traits, actions, and interactions we talked about before? Yes. Okay. Now, if you feel that you want to include other details, that is perfectly acceptable. There are a lot of different details you could go with. This is just my example of how your question should be laid out. And if you just want to follow that, that is also fine. Okay? So please remember these Ready New York videos will be split into parts. It is very important that you watch both parts because sometimes I do not do the entire thing for you and you will need to finish it out and send it to me. Okay? So that'll be probably the example in the next short response. Okay, I will start it for you, but I will not finish it. And you need to have it done so that when we return, we can go over these again and hopefully have some fun with the plays. All right, see you in the second part of lesson 5.